Okay, welcome to this webinar. If you have any question at any time, please stop me through the chat, because I have muted your microphones in order to reduce the noise of the webinar. So let's start. What we're going to see today is a kind of a project. We're going to do a project together. You will see later in the room that I am I'm going to show you. We have a little factory here. So the objective of this webinar will be monitoring that little factory since the start of a project and until the last phases. So we're going to do the whole thing that typically happens in 1 or 2 or 3 days. We're going to do that in 2 hours. So it's going to be pretty fast. So if you have any question at any time, please stop me and I will answer those questions. So for those who do not know the Edinn industry for that open platform, we will have an introduction about it. So let's start with it. You have here my name. My name is David from Edinn. And you have also my WhatsApp number in case later you want to send me an email or contact me. So let's start. What is Edinn? This is the agenda of what we're going to see today. So we will take a look, as I said, basically to what a project is. And we're going to put hands-on. We're going to do it. So let's start. What is Edinn? Edinn is one of the most popular base platforms for any industry for that whole project. It's a complete manufacturing execution system, and basically it helps for optimization with operational intelligence, big data, and machine learning. And it includes, the company includes a partners channel, which increases the guarantee of good service and protects the investment on behalf of the customers, because they can choose the partner they prefer. So, okay, so let's continue. This is where the Edinn platform is being used today. Different plants, different countries, more than 10 countries, thousands of active users. These are some of the customers that are using the Edinn platform. Some of these with different plans in different countries, as I said. Let's continue. And when we do a project, imagine we are already in a factory and our mission is to do the steps that I previously said. We need to provide to the users and to the customer. We need to provide a dashboard in a 50 inches TV screen, for example. That will be our objective for this initial phase. So first thing we gotta do is we have to follow some procedures, and these procedures will imply that we have to inform the leaders of the Edinn system about the academy and how to request support. That's the first step. So let me show you where these procedures are. Academy and support. If you go to Edinn webpage, it should go to the English version if you are in an English country. In English, or whenever you want, you just click there and you go to the English version. And here you have Academy. So you click on Academy. And here you have different profiles for users, installation, and for commercial purposes, commercial partners. I'm gonna enter on the installation as we are doing a project together. And then, well, this is because I was previously logged in. In case you don't have any account, you will have the possibility to register, and then we will give you access. And once you enter, you will see this. Here we have step by step how a project should be even the commercial area, the commercial part of the project, how that should be managed, and then later how the installation should be managed. And what do we do? Before visiting the customer, before going to the client, we have this previous steps guide. It's a checklist, which is the one we should send to the users, to the client. So what are the things this checklist is indicating? It is telling us if we have decided how many and which machines or production lines do we need to monitor. So that's the first question. In this factory that we're in, which machines are we going to monitor? Okay, that will be the first question. Then next question is, have we nominated the leaders of the Edinn platform? Because as you know, technology is not enough. You need, for a successful project and for a successful product, you need the cooperation and the involvement and the motivation of the people. So first, the second thing you need to do is you have to nominate who's going to be the leader inside the client, or leaders. We recommend more than one in case, you know, some people know everyone takes days off or vacation, or sometimes we get sick. So for that reason, we recommend to nominate more than one. Then this checklist continues as follows, and there are some basic things that you have to have, or you need to have before you can start a project like the one we're doing. You have the detail of this checklist. So this URL that you see here needs to be sent to the customer in advance that you go to the factory. So the leaders or the one who acquire your services should take a look to this list and follow it and take care that everything is ready before you go there. So you can check this. This is open. You can check this URL. Once you are in the academy, you have access to it. So let's continue. What we have in the academy, we have already seen this. I hope everyone in this webinar can see my screen. If you experience any problem, please chat me through the chat. I'm taking care of this chat also. So let's continue. Apart from this academy that I just showed you briefly, and we will come later to it because there's a lot of information, files to download, everything is in the academy. Apart from this, we have also a support channel. Let me show it to you. You have this, sorry, it opened it 2 times. You have this support ticket platform and also an online support. You also need a registered user to access this, but you can always request it and we will give you access. It's a ticketing platform where you can put your question or your problem, and then you will have a ticket number, and then someone from Edinn will answer you, and there will be a follow-up. So that's important for you to know, and important for you to inform your users, because that's the way later they can request for help. So let's continue. Can everyone have support? No. Only people who have an active license can have support. Access to the academy is granted for partners, and they don't need to have any active license, although it is very recommended. But support can only be provided for those partners or customers which have an active contract with Edinn. So there is this link where you can, starting at 88 euros per month, you can have a cloud server with one license of Edinn production control, and then you can have this support. So let's continue. So let's start. Before visiting the factory, we already have taken a look to the checklist. we already have sent this checklist to the customer, and the customer tells us that they have followed through the whole checklist and that everything is ready, so we can start the project. So this we're going to think about a real project, and this is people from a real customer in the UK in this case. So before installing the Edinn, they had lots of papers, Excel sheets, lack of control, unorganized growth. KPIs were gathered manually, and they were not introduced to any digital transformation or smart factory or industry 4.0. So that was the previous situation. This is a real case. Now we are there, we are with them, we are in their factory. So what are our objectives now for this phase? Please remember that this is an initial phase of an Edinn project. We are in phase 0 or phase 1. We are starting. So the objectives for this initial phase is just monitoring, digitalizing some operations. It's helped to detect losses, their problems in production in real time, and it's also very important to make the users autonomous. We don't want users that depend too much on us unless we have a contract, a service contract with them. But typically, the model is that users should be pretty autonomous. You have all the details here in this link. And this is also coming back to the same guide. Almost everything in Edinn is in the same guide. So you have everything in this guide that you see here, Edinn eCloud.edinn.com, Edinn M2 Help, EN, depends on the language here. Okay, so most of the platform documentation is here, the great majority. There is only another guide, which is for installing new servers, which is a different document. But with those two guides, you have all the documentation of the platform. It is fully documented. So here we have the final objectives, is the finishing of installation. This is what we need to have completed at the end of the project. So we will need to have our leaders appointed. We will have to there should be ratios and data correctly being calculated by the Edinn platform. So we don't need to get too much detail now because this is just a webinar, but you can later come here and see the whole detail of it. We will try to do our best in this time that we have together. So as soon as the project is confirmed, signed, paid, etc., a link to the preceding checklist is sent to the client. So not the list to the finishing, the list of the checklist that I showed you previously. Based on that, as you know, some clients will prepare everything because they have time to do this, or they consider this very important. But as you know, this is like when we were in the classroom some time ago. Some students did everything. Some students don't do their homework. So when you arrive to some customers, they didn't do really anything. So in that case, we will have to complete ourselves what the client didn't prepare, because finally the system needs certain information and someone has to provide that. So let's continue. Then one of the first things we do when we arrive to a new customer is we have to do a presentation. We have to present to executives, to the management board, and to the project leaders of the Edinn system. As we said, we need project leaders. We need the leaders of the Edinn system in the customer. So what ideas should be presented in our experience? And we've done hundreds of projects in more than 16 years. So what we need is to talk to the executives about return of investment and talk to the leaders about results improvement. How is that done? This image that you're seeing here is one of the biggest ideas behind the Edinn platform. This is happening in all factories. All factories, all companies, indeed, all organizations truly have continuously losses. We don't see them. We don't see all that money flowing to the sink, but that's happening. And that money is the most important money that every organization has. which is the actual money that they have in the bank account. It's not future money, it's real present money. And why is all this money being lost and we don't see it? This money is being lost because of 4 reasons. Availability, which means that some of the processes, machines, and personnel stop. Let me try to close this. Okay. Speed, which means that sometimes we are not producing at the speed we should. Machine or personnel are not producing at the speed we should. Quality, some of the results that we produce are bad and are discarded. And excessive consumption, which means that we're consuming more energy, more material, more personnel in a place than we should. So it's very interesting that all the inefficiencies, all the money, oops, sorry, I went back a lot of slides. Here we are. So it's important that all this money, all the money that is being wasted in every organization because of inefficiency, it's only caused by these 4 types of losses. So there are no 1,000 types of losses. There are only 4 types of losses. And Edinn, the Edinn platform, covers the 4, covers all of them. And so our objective will be to provide our users a percentage ratio of all of these 4 categories so that they will know if they are losing a lot of money because they are not working all the time, because they're stopping too much, or because they are going slowly, or because they're producing with low quality, or because they are consuming excessively. So we're going to provide them with a percentage per category here, a percentage of the global, and more important than that, we're going to provide them with the detail of why is that happening. So as you see, they will be in the shortest path, in the fastest path for improvement. And this is what causes the Edinn platform to be so profitable and to generate benefits which go from 5 to 40% increase in productivity and efficiency, which means that our customers will for sure, this is, we say from 5 to 40 because there's no exception to this. So our customers in less than 1 year at least will improve 5%, which means they will produce 5% more results with the same costs, or will reduce 5% their costs producing the same. So this is useful not only for customers which are focused on cost reduction, but also for customers which are focused on producing more. So it's for everyone. Everyone is interested in improving his total efficiency by 5% or more, no matter if he's in a growing market or if he's in a shrinking market, mature market. Okay? So this should be a priority for everyone. And we have to show them that this should be before any other investment. Some of our customers will be thinking about changing their ERP or improving some machinery or doing certain things. That's nice, but this goes first. This goes before, because this will show me if that's in reality my focus. If that should be my focus, or I should focus in another thing. So we cannot improve what is not measured. So let's continue. If you have any question, you know you can chat me at any time, and I will answer all your questions. So let's continue a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about Edinn. We will please remember we are still in the presentation that we should perform to the managers and to the leaders for them to know the system they're going to have installed in a few hours or in a few days, 1, 2, 3 days. So Edinn is a standard solution, which means that all customers have the same core. That's why Edinn can upgrade your version in a few minutes, because all customers have the same core. This is no matter if it's installed in the cloud or installed on premise, all customers share the same core. It's easy to use and customize. It's profitable. It has a very fast implementation. All the needs are covered by modules, and when you have a specific need, which sometimes happens, and you don't find a module for this, you can develop it, or you can ask for help to another partner, because it's an open API platform which is fully documented, also very, very powerful, very complete API platform for development. And also it's a standard when it comes to integration with other computer systems. It's ISA 95 compliant. It's a norm which is in the internet. You can download it. It's ISA 95 from isa.org, isa.org. And it's the biggest standardization organization in terms of factories and industrial production. And Edinn is compliant with that, with the biggest standard. So then we also explain to the people in the customer what we're going to do. We're going to do this. So some of your machinery will be monitored directly following a standard called OPC, which is a standard to read and to write into from machinery. And some of your machines will be maybe old, or OPC standard will be very expensive to apply. There might be some reasons, or sometimes you don't want to touch anything on the machine. So sometimes you will need to install a device which we call eBox. And this device, it's also, by the way, it's also OPC compatible. So we will read that device through the local area network with wire or Wi-Fi, and that will go to a local server, which will send the data to the cloud, or maybe we don't send anything to the cloud. Some customers don't want to send anything to the cloud and just want to retain everything on premise. In that case, then the Edinn server must be installed inside the company. So we explained them that the server is the central node. Sometimes some customers ask, what happens if I turn a terminal, a computer, if I turn it off? As long as it is not the server, you will not lose any data. So all terminals are dummy terminals. So we also explained to the customer that they need fixed IP addresses for the eBoxes, and it is also recommended for the terminals. For the eBoxes, because the server needs a fixed IP address to monitor these devices. And for the terminals, because sometimes they request remote support and you need to access the server, and then from here, you sometimes use VNC, for example, a remote control application to help users in their place, to the operator in their terminal. So also, it's recommendable, it's a good recommendation to tell to the customer that they should have a different network. They should have a computer network for the office and a computer network, different one for the plant, for this network that you see here. Why is that recommended? OPC DA, which is the previous norm, previous standard, is not very secure. It's not secure. So if you put all this machinery in the same network that the customer has for the office, any provider that connects to the network could have access to the machinery. Once you separate those networks, then you can use OPC DA, which is not very secure. This recommendation makes less sense when it comes to OPC UA, which Edinn also supports OPC UA. OPC UA is the newest standard and is fully secure, so you shouldn't need those separated networks. But once again, you need them because you don't want traffic which is flowing on the offices, people downloading or watching videos for learning or downloading things. You don't want that to affect your monitoring in the plant. So once again, it is recommended to have separated networks. So let's continue. This is a very fast and quick view of the Edinn platform. As you can see, it has a visualization layer, and then you have modules and applications, 12 modules. These 12 modules can be, let's say, improved with the API. We can add more modules. For those of you who are partners, you also, or even some customers have access to this, you have to know that we have many developments already done, and we can share that those developments, the source code, we share that with the partners. So if you have any specific need, please request to us if we have any module for that. We are preparing an eStore, a kind of app store that we want to publish soon in our webpage for partners, and there you will have these modules downloadable with an information about them. So what's the only part which is not extensible, so that nobody can change except from Edinn, is the database. The database has to be kept untouched, because that's the only way we can assure that the core, the same core, is common for all customers. But apart from that, apart from the database, all the rest can be improved. Even the data capture and the logic, all that, as you will see in future sessions and in future training, you will discover that everything can be extensible. So the architecture is pretty well designed for this. Here you can see the modules. I'm not going to enter into much detail. We don't enter into much detail here, even in the projects, but we just explain them. I'm not going to explain them to you much, but I'm going to just tell you that you can monitor consumption, of course, production efficiency. You can schedule in the new version that will come the 15th of October. The scheduler has been dramatically improved, and now it is optimizing routes and optimizing working orders. You can also do maintenance and manage your maintenance, predictive and preventive. You can manage quality, stock, and traceability. You can integrate with the ERP as long as you follow the ISA 95 standard. It's going to be pretty straight, pretty fast. As I said, there is an API development. You can monitor costs. There is an artificial intelligence neural network which predicts failures and big data. There are, this 15th of October, we are releasing, I think it's Edinn, once again, is going to be the first in its class, including diagnosis and recommendation reports, which will help you to improve your operations. You can also monitor personnel and know their performance. And there's also an artificial vision module which will convert certain visual patterns into electrical signals. All these together with data mining, development platform, we will talk about this, industrial Internet of Things. Edinn captures automatically by its own. It captures the data automatically, and as I said, you can integrate it following a standard with other softwares. So let's continue. Instead of following this slide, this presentation, I'm going to open a demo. This is what we do in the projects. Instead of following these papers, we prefer to do it live. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to enter on the demo. You can request access to this demo. Sorry, you just have to type ecloud.edinn.com. It will do the next thing. You can change index by demo, and now I'm in demo mode. I don't know if there's any question by someone. No, I can continue, okay. So there are some users. I can provide to you some users for the demo. So this is the dashboard. This is the dashboard that we have. We can create as many dashboards as we want. It's just drag and drop. And I can increase the size of the widgets. We have different dashboards here, with different content. I can even put external widgets, which could be a page coming out from a different system or whatever, or it could be a welcome message for the customers, and I can put this all around different screens. There is a presentation mode, which I tell how frequently I want to refresh these dashboards, and then they will be showing automatically in a carousel mode. I should adjust all these, of course. I should adjust these to be perfectly and to be filling the whole screen. This is because I'm changing now. I'm in WebEx, so it's a different resolution. But once you do this, you do it perfectly. And once you have adjusted this, you can also block the widgets so that nobody will change proportion or the widgets that we have here. These dashboards, as you see, are shown immediately. I don't have to wait. The system pre-calculates the information so that they are shown immediately, no matter how complex they are. For example, here we have 85.68% OEE in this whole period, and this is the current shift. And I have some losses here. I can see, for example, we had a very bad day, which was full of failures. It had 20%. I hope you can see the detail, the little numbers, 20% failures. So if I click on the title of the report, then it brings me to the detail, and now I can see the tree, which shows me all the structure of the company, and I can see that this graphic is coming out from the robot line 4, and I can even click on the losses. That's very nice. Then I see that we have failure doors, electrical failures. That's the category, electrical failures, and it's 25 minutes. This has happened 6 times. In Edinn, I always have the aggregated information, and then if I go to the right, I have the detail. So now I will have all those failures, when exactly they occurred, and which person justified this, in case it's a person. Sometimes it's automatic. When they are automatic, it's a central. Central means by the server, done automatically by the Edinn system. So something interesting from Edinn is that I can now send this link to someone in my company, and it will generate this link that you're seeing now, and I can see, please check. Sorry for that, it's pretty slow. These failures. Then I can send these to whoever. And once I send this email, the person who receives it receives the URL that you saw, and it's exactly as if I did this. So it's opening the same report with all the parameters. And so the person could say, okay, what was the reference that we were producing at that moment? So I go to results. Results in Edinn means the part that we're producing, the product that we're producing, the results of the process, the results of the machine. And then I go to summary, and then I click show. So now I'm seeing what was produced when those failures occurred. And I could come back to statuses, summary, and see. I don't want to see now failures. I want to see everything. So I see there was a change of model. So that might explain the electrical failures maybe. I want to see the whole detail. This is exactly what happened. So as you can see, Edinn is always helping you to have a forest. Instead of seeing the trees, you can see the forest. And you just drill down when you need to drill down. If things are going well, as you can see here is yellow, so I should drill down here. But if things are going well, like this green, then I don't waste my time. So Edinn is a time generator for our users. Okay, they gain time because they don't have to be taking care of many details, engineering data. They don't have to do that at all. They just establish objectives, and then as long as these objectives are achieved, things are going to be shown in green. They don't want. They can dedicate their brain and their time for more valuable things instead of analyzing things which are not useful. And they just analyze when they have problems. Like for example, here, if I click on the title, then I see the detail. And now I can find out what happened. I can go, for example, there is a very nice report here, which is called detail. And this will show me all the detail of what happened in that period. All the failures, all the idle, and finally the good production. So I have all the things that happened to that period. And I can explain, and this is, as we compromised in the beginning, this is 100% detail of the losses, the Pareto that we were talking about. So I hope with this introduction you already have a more or less clear idea of this is just a brief vision of what you can do. There are 41 different widgets with all these characteristics that we saw. So as we were talking about technology is 50% of the success. The other 50% is how we convince, how the people in the company embraces the technology. So for us and for you, it's very important to follow this methodology, because this methodology has been proved to be successful. So the first thing we need to do is what we're going to do in this webinar is connecting to the machinery and to the people to gather data. We need real-time data. And the second thing we do is dashboards, because we need to create a digital twin of the operations. And then third, we can then follow the requirements of the customer. This third phase depends completely on the needs of the customer. Some customers need quality improvement. Some customers are more focused on scheduling and planning. Some customers need a lot of maintenance. So third phase will be depending on the customer needs. But first and second phase do not depend, are common for all customers. First and second phase are necessary and are and we recommend them before anything else, because this will provide us data, which is mandatory for the fourth phase, which is artificial intelligence and big data. So if a customer comes to us and says, I want to do artificial intelligence and big data, failure prediction and things like that, we will recommend him to first cover these initial phases. Otherwise, we are entering into a unknown project, which we're not sure if it's going to be as successful as it could be if we follow this methodology. So let's continue. So as I said, the challenge, as you are going to see with Edinn, technology is so mature and the product is so standard and so powerful. Technology is not the challenge anymore. Now the challenge is the people. So we have to train a lot, involve the people. We have to work a lot so that we have to work to achieve that our users are autonomous. That's very important, as I previously said. And then the potential of a project and a technology like Edinn is huge. As you will see, not in this webinar, we don't have time for this in this webinar. We will do future webinars about big data and machine learning. As you will see, the potential and the tools that we already have are great. And in fact, the 15th of October, we are releasing new reports which use big data and statistics intensively and will provide very valuable information. So as I said, Edinn integrates following a standard, ISA standard, and this should be enough for this initial presentation that we have to do in all projects in the beginning. So let's continue. What are we going to do now? We're going to start the project. So as I previously told you, there is this checklist, okay? If you go back to the academy, you have here the steps for a project. And first says, check the steps to take before the installation. So this is before we arrive to the customer. We did the presentation that we already have seen. And now we have to start. Are we going to use a local server or a cloud server? In this webinar, we're going to use a cloud server. So I'm clicking here, and it's bringing me to the same guide. And here I can read about using my own local server. There is an introduction. And now, why do we have this in two folders, different folders? Because these things can be done in parallel. One guy or the customer, typically the customer, can prepare the monitoring while we create and configure the component. Are things that are done in parallel, and finally they get together. So for the monitoring preparation, I should send, typically I send this information to the customer so that the customer, the guy who's in maintenance, maintaining machinery, will enter here and will understand what kind of signals we need to monitor. The main signal to monitor is just counters. We need production counters from machinery, from every process. Okay? Okay. So here it will explain the signals that they need to prepare and to connect to the e-box or to provide us from their PLCs to be read through the OPC standard. Here in this document, it explains you how to connect an e-box, which is, I hope all of you know already about this. An e-box is a device prepared by Edinn, which allows you to monitor machinery. Here it tells you how to connect a sensor to the e-box. So the customer will come here and they will know how to prepare the monitoring, the connection part. So let me tell you that we don't typically do this, neither us nor our software or consulting partners. Only our technical automation partners do this. If you want to do the whole thing for the customer, that's great. In our experience, customers appreciate a lot to have only one provider to manage the whole project. They appreciate this a lot. And but apart from that, maybe some of you just prefer to concentrate on the project, and then you need someone to do the connection of the e-boxes and the preparation of the signals. And some of you want to do your own. So it's not complicated, but we prefer if the customer prepares this himself. And so we train them and we provide them with the e-boxes and we provide them with this documentation, and we manage before the project. Before we sell the project, we manage, and this is also in our terms and conditions of the project, that the customer should be responsible of preparing the monitoring. So let's continue. As I said, this monitoring preparation can be done in parallel to these things. So maybe now our customer has already the training, the documentation, and the e-boxes, and he or one of our partners, automation partners, are already installing this, or maybe it's us doing this installation. It's not difficult. And now we can start in parallel the creation and configuration of the company. So we're going to use an Edinn Cloud Server, as we said. And why is the OPC bridge, or what is the OPC bridge for? Let me explain you this. Please, let's go back to the architecture. Let me see if I have the image here. Here. So as you see here, from the cloud Edinn server, we need to monitor machinery. And as you know, this company could have a public IP address which could change maybe. That would be the first problem. And then as you know, there could be here a firewall which will not allow us to read data. So we should have to talk with the IT guy of this organization and ask certain tasks in order for us to be able to access the data and through the firewall and then to the machine. So that, as you saw, has certain problems. We need a fixed public IP address, which sometimes some internet providers do not provide this, or some of our customers do not have this, don't even know what this thing is. And then later we can have problems with firewalls and things like that. And there could be many routers and switches and different network devices which prevent us from getting the data. So to do that, to avoid all that, we're going to use a software from Edinn called OPC Bridge, which will bridge the OPC data from this organization, will bridge it to the cloud. Okay? So I hope you now understand what the OPC Bridge is. So we're going to use it. And after choosing that we're going to use the OPC Bridge, we're going to use not the Edinn box. We're not going to use e-boxes. We're not going to use that because, as I will show you now, we have a factory here. I have a factory here with me, and that's not using e-boxes. That's using, well, internally it has e-boxes, but we're going to choose a more general perspective, more useful for you, which is your own PLCs and OPC server. So let's start. Introduction. We need a company in the cloud. We need a PLC which is compatible with OPC server. We need an OPC server software, and we need the Edinn OPC bridge. So let's start. We go to create. So first thing in this procedure is create the company. So I click here, and I come to this first page. You need a payment code. To get the payment code, you just have to go to edinn.com and then put online, and there you can acquire your payment code. This payment code, you have an English version, of course. This payment code is free for 30 days. So you just have to register. Let me go back to the place, okay? You just have to register and you will obtain your payment code. I have one here for testing. I'm going to create the company test 1, for example. I put my email. I type a password. This password is important. So I'm going to type it again to be sure. I choose English in this case. I accept the terms and conditions, and I then register. Now I will find a list of servers. I have to choose the server which is compatible with my time zone, and I have to choose the server which is closest to my users, so that it's faster for them. I'm going to choose Paris in this case. Any question, please go ahead. Okay. And now I click continue. I'm creating now an Edinn company in the cloud. So now it's created, and it tells me I have an internal identifier. This is important because it's the unique identifier of the company in the cloud. I can change the name later, but the company identifier will be useful sometimes for support or things like that, because it identifies uniquely my company. It also tells me in which server it was created, which I also will need later. So now I click here to continue, and we're starting. So some of the things I am telling you, they will be here. Let me go back to the creation. I have already many screens open. I'm going to close them all. I'm going to close this session here. I'm going to close all these tabs. And we are here. Okay. So after this step, let me keep this. Okay, we're done. So after this step, I have to, it recommends me, after creating the company, it recommends me to install and configure the OPC server. As we said, we're not going to use an Edinn e-box. We're going to use our own PLCs and our own OPC server. I have one OPC server in my computer, which is Contron FATEC. It's an OPC server we can provide to you. It's only compatible with FATEC PLCs. Some of the OPC servers are compatible with different brands of PLCs. Some of the OPC servers are only compatible with one brand. In this case, this is only compatible with FATEC PLCs, which, by the way, is the PLC inside an Edinn box, an e-box. So I run it as an administrator, and I don't know where it went. Here it is. Okay. Then it forces me to open a file. I already have created a file here, and this file is already, it has already a PLC. I could create a new PLC here, a new station if I wanted. I already did that. And I have Lisa, which comes from Little Industry, and this is the factory I have here on my side. And I have already set up the IP address. The factory, of course, is in my internal local network, and PLCs also have a port. So I can access this data, I can do test OPC client, and now I'm checking if I have connection to the factory, and I have connection already. You can see here the counters that are defined internally. I don't know if I explained this, but you need counters. For the production, for the total production, you need counters. You don't want to have signals which go 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, because that's difficult to monitor. You are going to read counters every certain seconds, for example, every 5 seconds. So you don't want to lose any count. So you don't want to have the stress of reading signals as fast as you can. You prefer to have counters. So signals will only be used in case you want to use signals to justify stops, to detect some problems, to monitor pressure, temperature, humidity, different things that you might need. Those are signals because you want to capture in real time their value. What Edinn does is it subscribes to signals. So counters are read periodically, and you don't lose any count because counters keep the number. And signals are, the system is subscribed to signals, which means that you will not lose any data because the system will be informed every time the signal changes. This is so powerful that sometimes you have to filter some data, because imagine a signal which has 3 decimal numbers and these decimals are changing very fast. That will be entering into your database millions of data in a few seconds, so you want to filter that. So Edinn has also features to filter a certain percentage of changes, because you don't want to fill your database with data which is not valuable. So I hope you understood more or less the difference between counters and signals. And once again, you want to have production counters of every process instead of signals. In this case, our PLC, the PLC that is inside this factory, you're going to see later, this PLC, it's already programmed with counters for the processes I want to monitor. We will see that later. So I'm going to stop this, I'm going to close this. My OPC server is ready, and all these things that I explained is already explained here step by step. You don't need to take notes or remember anything. You just have to follow step by step what's in the guide. So let's go to the third step. Now we have to bridge. We have to send the data that is inside this factory. We have to send that to the cloud. How are we going to do that? We're going to install from the academy. We're going to install. We're not going to use the latest version because it's still in beta mode. It's still being tested and developed. We're going to use the stable version, which is 2019-01, and then we're going to download the OPC bridge, and here it is, downloaded. Sorry, I extracted it. Now I install it for everyone. I agree with the terms and conditions. Let me check. This is not the latest version. I had this trouble in the previous test that I did. This is something that shouldn't happen to you. This is because I have downloaded previous versions. So let me try, save this link as, and I'm gonna save it in my downloads, save. Now it's downloading. It was in the cache of the web browser, and it was downloading a previous version. I want the latest version. And here it is. Okay, now I have to install. Everyone, I agree. Permission as an administrator, and it's installed. Okay, now I can close this. Now I have here, let's follow the steps, sorry. Okay, so here it says go to Edinn Academy, download OPC bridge, install it, and then execute OPC bridge configuration. I'm going to do that. I click OPC on my Windows, and it shows me OPC bridge configurator. I execute it, request administrator permission, and now what I have to insert here is the company ID. I have the company ID from the web page that showed me the company ID. Wait a second. Company ID is here. I put it on the OPC bridge. Okay, that's it. Correct. And then I have to be careful here because I have to put the server where I'm in, not the default one. Okay, that's it. It also says here to put a final question mark. Don't forget that. I think if you don't put it, there is no problem, but I prefer to put it just in case. And I put the password that I use to register my company. It's the same password. Now I accept. So once I've done that, now my OPC bridge is already connected to my company in the cloud. Now I can follow the steps of the wizard. Now I enter here. I put my password. This is the company we just created. And this brings me to the configuration wizard. So it guides me step by step, and I can configure the whole company. So first thing is configuring the shifts. So what we do is we send this link to our customer so that the customer can introduce data and import data himself. So that when we arrive to the customer, he already has inserted and introduced the majority of the data. And sometimes if they have any question, they will request help from us and we can help them remotely. We can request the password from them and we can help them to introduce data. But this is important that before you visit the factory, so as you saw, before you visit the factory, you already should have configured this wizard. So as you saw, you can change a little bit the steps. I'm doing them in a phase or in a procedure that you could change slightly in a real project, because sometimes you could get a payment code, create your company, send that link to the final user, to the leaders, while you are preparing and while you are sending the checklist and they're preparing monitoring, or you might even send the e-boxes before and send the documents. And when you arrive to the project, this is especially useful when you're doing a project which is very far away from your office and you're getting planes and reserving hotels and things like that. So the more you prepare, the better for the success of the project. But I can tell you, it's not difficult. We've done and we do many projects, and 99.9% are completely successful. So here, every step of the wizard will show you some help for you to understand. The only thing important in this shifts configuration is that you have to cover 24 hours. So for example, imagine my company is working in the morning shift goes from 6 to 2, then evening should go from 2 to 10 in the night, and then from 10 to 6. So you have to cover 24 hours. If you commit any mistake here, the system will warn you and won't allow you to save. I'm going to save this change. Now I continue. So now I'm configuring processes. The factory I'm going to monitor has 5 processes, so I'm going to start. I know the first process is a conveyor. It produces pieces, and the next process is the number 2. And number 2 is a rotator. You will see later in a camera this factory. And then the third is a drill. And then the fourth is a conveyor 2. And then the fifth is a press. So we're done. We save. Let's continue. Here we have some statuses. What the status is? The status are the different time usages or the different things that can happen to a process. A process can be broken, can be being cleaned, can be being adjusted, can be in a failure. Different things that happen to processes. to machines or persons or combination, which is a process. Here it will explain you the different colors that are used in the Edinn system for the different types of process statuses. Sorry, there are 5 types of statuses. I'm not going to enter much in this because you have the online help, and I really recommend you to read from the wizard or from the documentation in order to understand. Here, we're just taking a look very quickly to the potential. Then we can configure results. Results are the things coming out from processes, which is parts or pieces or liters or square meters, whatever that a process produces will be reflected here. Please remember that you can export into Excel, and once you open this file, you can put many more results here. You just have to complete, in this case, 3 columns. So once you have put, maybe you are getting out this information from your ERP, and you copy them here, and then you later can, the same file be imported, and by doing that, you will be inserting thousands of results in a few seconds. So let's continue. This is very important. This is the objectives. First process has been already configured by the system, but we have to configure the rest of the processes. This means how many results, one, will be produced by this process every how many seconds. I know that this machine produces 1 result every 10 seconds, so I'm going to put that. I'm going to request that this process produces 50% of its total potential. So as long as the process produces 50% of the total potential, it will be shown in green. Otherwise, it will be shown in red. And then if you read these, you will understand the questions. This is in order to be able to set up objectives for 3 of the 4, as we were talking previously, 3 of the 4 losses categories that exist. We have already now configured objectives for 3 of them, which are the ones that this wizard covers. This wizard is not covering consumption. To cover consumption, you have to use the terminal, which you can download also from the Academy and install. With the terminal, you can configure everything. From the wizard, you just can configure the initial step, which covers the first and the second step of our methodology, as we talked previously. So I'm going to save the rotator, and then I'm going to continue now faster, because you already understood. Save. I'm going to go to the conveyor 2, 1 in 10 seconds, 50%, 90, 95. I'm putting just sample numbers just to proceed. And I'm saving. Let me check that I have indicated the system cycle times and cycle units and objectives for all processes. It's done. Okay, now we continue. Now, here we have the users. This is me, and this is the password I already inserted. I'm going to create another user, an operator. No email, and I only have here these 3 rows, because this is a customized one. But I insist, from the terminal, you can configure everything. I don't know, apart from some minutes ago, I didn't mention this before, but one of these pages that was that we saw was inviting me, and also you have received, if you create a company, you receive an email, and in that email, it will tell you that you have the possibility to download the terminal, and it gives you the link to the terminal. And with that terminal, with that software, that application, you can configure everything, not just this, many, many more things. But here from this wizard, I can only choose an operator, and I'm going to put password 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I save. And now we have come to the latest step. This is the monitoring step. So this is also explained here. We already did this, and now we are in this step. This is also explained step by step. You just have to follow the steps that I'm going to do now. So here you have 6 basic signals results, scrap, rework, available, saturation, on-off, and live feed. Justify and justify all, not 6, there are 8, I think, per process. So I have the conveyor one, which I created, the rotator, and for all of these processes, the system has already created signals for me. These signals are all disconnected except this one, which is already being manually monitored. But we don't want to use manual. We don't want our operators to be inserting data here. We want that data to be read from the machine directly. So as the documentation explains, we have to use, in this case, Edinn HIP, which stands from Edinn Hardware Integration Protocol. And I'm going to choose that. I'm going to choose Edinn HIP, okay? And here I see my computer. That Series 9 is the name of the computer where I installed the OPC bridge, the Edinn OPC bridge. And I configured the Edinn OPC bridge. So the Edinn OPC bridge has already told the Edinn Cloud server that he is already sending data, and I have that data ready for me. So I select my computer. So if in your organization you have different computers or different servers which are monitoring different PLCs or different OPC servers, then you will see them all here. Once I choose that computer, then I can see which OPC servers are installed on that particular computer. So in my computer, I have 2 OPC servers. By the way, both are for the FATEC PLCs, which are the PLCs that we're using typically. I mean, our customers have Siemens, Omron, Phoenix Contact, Rockwell. They have many, many brands. But for our testing and training purposes, we are typically using these brands. So I choose the Contron. Remember, the Contron was the one we were using here, Contron OPC server. So now I'm connecting that. And now I have to put here the item that I'm going to monitor. Remember, we were reading the Lisa, which is a Little Industry. And remember, I did test OPC client. And remember, we had some items here. And here you can see the name of the item. So it's lisa.cpr.cpr0000. So I'm going to put that here. And I know for the process 1, for the conveyor 1, I know it's the 1, the counter I want to read. I also know that these counters reset every 32,000 counts. So I need to tell the system that it's going to go 31,999 and then 0. So to do that, I'm doing that. So then I go to the rotator, and I go to results once again, which is the first signal to monitor. And then I choose Series 9, and then I choose Control, and then I put the counter. Oops, sorry. That's the counter. Let me check if I did it correctly here. Yes, and it's restarting at 32,000. Let me go to the drill, which is here. Once again, Edinn HIP, Series 9, Control 32,000. I have to save before I can go to the next page. So it's already saved. Now I go to the next page. I choose the conveyor 4, HIP, Series 9, Control, the item, and 32,000. Save. Let me check that I did this correctly. Yeah, that's the 3. Let's go to the next page. And results, Edinn HIP, Series 9, Control 5, and 32. Once again, what I'm doing now is just the basic configuration. If you want to use the whole configuration, you can open your server console. And in your server console for your company, in your server console, you have far more power than you're seeing in the wizard. This is the same thing, But here you can choose OPCDA, OPCUA, endpoints, and all the parameters, all the 100% the parameters that the Edinn supports in terms of monitoring are inside the console. But as I previously explained, we're just using the wizard for a basic start. By the way, the wizard is really used in the projects. So as you can see now, it is already reading my data. As you can see, it's saying OK, and there's a number, and the last time it was read. And every time I hit refresh, it will be telling me last time it read the data. So we are connected now. Our factory is being monitored. So this is the last step. And then it tells me, do you want to access your reports, or you want to download and install the terminal application for a full configuration? So I'm going to access the reports. We have this dashboard already. And this is already real. This is already reading our factory. Okay? As we created the processes later, and we only have at this point a dashboard for the process number 1, but we're going to create now from the terminal, we're going to create dashboards for the other processes. We can, for example, click here on the current sheet, and we could click on results and say, hey, if we didn't produce anything, why do we have 14,000 pieces produced already? This is because the PLC already had a count. So the first value that is read from a system, first time we start the system, that value is not useful and should be deleted. Okay? And this is because sometimes the machine was producing already before we install the system. So the initial dump that the system does in terms of results needs to be deleted. And we're going to see how this is updated in real time. So I'm going to start producing. In order to detect this production, I'm going to go to statuses. So now if I go to statuses and I click show, you will see that it has already detected that I started producing. Then we had a little microscope here. And as you can see, there's no end time here. So it means it's already producing, it's now producing. This is a complete real factory. Although it's little, it's completely real. So when it stops, it will show here the time, and we can also see the results that are being produced in detail or in an aggregation mode. So if you download from the Edinn Academy, if you download the client setup here, the terminal, that's the terminal, you will install and have this software. I'm going to connect to my company. Here on this icon here, you can choose the server you want to access. It's taking some time. My computer is a little bit loaded. So I'm going to go to the eCloud of Edinn. Now I'm connected, and I'm accessing my company, which is test 1. And this is my user, and this is my password. I'm entering. I'm going to choose a tree view. Here I have a tree view, which I prefer. I don't want to see more tooltips. No. And here you see the structure of the company we just created. And this icons here indicate that I have to justify. So for example, let's go to the rotator, one of the processes. Don't you take care of this message at this point. It will not, because now the license is flowing between my server and my terminal. Later it will not tell me this. So now I see this is a dashboard which is done with the API, but you have different views. You could see just the OE, or you could see the speed, you could see different data, or you could have a combination of what you want to see here. You could, for example, this is a very common perspective, which is the path graphic and which order I'm producing and big buttons and things like that. But status is blinking now for this operator, so I click on status, and then it brings me and tells me, hey, what has happened starting at 6:21 when we created the company? Okay, because the thing is that I was idle, for example. And then it brings me to the next failure. What happened here? And then I can click justify. I can create more statuses. I have a plus button here. Maybe I can close this window. Okay. I have a plus button, and I can create a new status, for example. And it's gonna be cleaning. Oops. And this is an idle type. I can now choose cleaning. You can remove that configuration, so you can forbid that someone creates new statuses. But for a demo, you can. Sorry, I don't want to have that code. You can put whatever the code, but I prefer to be current with the previous ones. So this would be adjustment, for example. It's also idle in this case. I could create failures or whatever. Then I am selecting that. So once I finish to justify everything, then the alert is not shown anymore. So I'm done. I have justified everything. Okay? If I wanted to change the reference we're producing now, or change the order, then I have the results button. I could follow the schedule and the plan. As I said, you should delete this first initial count. I can do it because I am an administrator. I'm playing as an administrator here. Okay, you can do it with this button here to edit results. There's also input output. There is a lot of functionality. This is a complete MES system. There is a lot of functionality. I'm just explaining a brief overview. Okay, so I can justify these statuses, and this is shown in real time. This is shown in real time in our reports. So if I come here and I go to, instead of taking a look to the conveyor, if I take a look to the rotator, then I have the ratios of the rotator. And if I go to statuses, like if I go to the detail, then I will see this is what we just justified, has been justified by this admin user, which is me. Okay. Then here, as I said, you can configure everything. Take a look to how many things you can configure about processes. So this is the process configuration. So it's there are lots of things to configure, lots of things. And one of the things we can do is we can create dashboards. Remember we didn't have dashboards for this process that we created. So I'm gonna hit this button and it will be creating dashboards. If you ever have any question, you can use this question mark, which will bring you to the concrete, to the specific page that you need to check. So it's a contextual help, which is also very useful. So I'm gonna create, as I said, a dashboard per process. Now you will see the result of this. Creating dashboards from a template. And last one. Okay, now I can get out from process. Remember, we were able to configure statuses. So take a look how powerful can be the statuses configuration from the terminal. You have far more detail, maximum time, next status, documents. We can put documents for failures to train our operators how to fix a failure. We can do if these statuses are blocking or not, exceptions, and we can schedule statuses for weekends. So there are a lot of functionality that I'm not getting into because this is just a brief webinar. So now that we have created these dashboards, I can go to dashboards, and I should see here the dashboards of those processes. Wait a second. Here you have them. And as you can see, these dashboards are refreshed automatically by the system. So as I am producing, they will be showing the info in real time. Take a look, for example, we already deleted that initial record of production of results. So that's why it's telling me I produced 5. But if I go to the third process, it tells me I have produced 12,000, which I told you is not correct. So I could go to the drill, and I could go to results, and then I could delete this record here with a minus, and then in a few seconds, this data will be shown on this dashboard. Please also remember that these dashboards are HTML5 technology, so they can work from an iPad or from your mobile phone. I have access to lots of dashboards from my iPhone, or you can also use Android. So this is very important. So now let's go back to the presentation and see what's missing still. So we already configured sheets, processes, statuses, results, objectives, users, and monitoring. So let's continue. So the project continues. We should take care about more monitoring. There are lots of signals, as I told you. The wizard will only allow us to start the minimum, but then later we will need to go to the console, as I showed you, and there from the console you have all the power to configure. We have then detailed configuration, as I showed you. There are many options to configure. Then we should start the system. The system will start gathering all the data. We will do the training, and we will provide support for the customer until they tell us they are satisfied, or until we have completed our objectives. So we already talked about this. We have already talked about assigning IPs, fixed IPs to the e-box and terminals. We already talked about training the project leaders about monitoring and verification. It's important that we verify the system, that all these data that we're seeing here is valid, is working fine. We do that for the customer, okay? And then we have to, don't forget to program weekend and off-day statuses, automatic statuses, because you don't want to have the customer on Monday to be justifying the whole weekend. So you program for them those days off or vacation. But vacation you don't typically know, unless it's all it's the same vacation for the whole company. But you can program at least weekends, and if they have some breaks, for example, the lunch break or things like that, you should program that so that they don't have to justify things that are very easy to be automatically justified. So basically, the system is stable, it can be used. We have trained the leaders over the installed system and the people in charge of teaching. We don't train operators directly. We just train people who will train operators. So typically our mission is not to train the whole plant and everyone unless you sell this service. We typically just train people who is going to be the trainers, okay? And we also make sure that users know where and how to get support. This is important. Otherwise, they will call you directly. And then we need to prepare remote access. We need access to the server. So we typically install TeamViewer or ISL, some kind of remote control tool to the server in order. This is because later the customer can request support. They can have a question or problem, whatever, and you need to access remotely. And also reports, as I said, you can request to the IT department to allow the users remote access to the Edinn reports. For that, you also need a fixed site public IP, port forwarding, and certain technical things to be done. And then you also might install on the server VNC or similar. This is to control terminals from the server and be able to help your users. So final verification, do dashboards refresh periodically? Do terminals show a screensaver over the dashboards? Our work is changing the result and justifying stocks. Our project leaders autonomous and motivated to use the system. In case of local servers, have we informed the users about the importance of making and maintaining backups? This is very important because the most valuable part of an Edinn system is the data. All the work that has been done by us and by the customer, especially by the customer, day by day, week by week, configuring, fine-tuning their system is inside the database. That needs to be backed up and needs to be taken care of that, because it's the most valuable part of an Edinn project. Maybe you can have a terminal broken, a e-box broken. That's no big deal. You just replace that. That's not a big deal in terms of money or problems. But if you lose the configuration and the whole data, you have to start from scratch. That has never happened to us. I touch wood. I hope it will never happen, but we will have to keep warning the people about this. So then we inform the project leaders about the API possibilities, whether Edinn is developing new functionality or the partner or customers. And what we have, before we had management via Excel and paper, KPIs gathered by hand and not updated. And we were not inside Industry 4.0, and now we have automated management online and automating KPIs, and we are strongly entering into Industry 4.0. This is what we have achieved in this webinar. And now we will have a 2-minute brief overview on the partners channel for those of you who are partners. As we showed you, you have an academy section where you have everything on the academy. We have our objective is that everything is on the academy. We hope you can find everything. If you ever receive anything from us which is not on the academy, please request it to be on the academy, because everything should be there. And also, if you are a partner, you have a quotator system which will allow you to quote and generate proposals, commercial proposals, and it includes everything. It includes the services, it includes the hardware, the licenses, so you have the whole thing of a project, and you can estimate, the system will estimate for you the effort, the service hours, and everything you need for a project. And well, that's it. Thank you very much